I'll just go there.
Okay.
Okay, so, just, I guess, kind of tell me about, like, when you were born and where you were born and, like, kind of growing up in your childhood.
Okay, so, let's see. I was born June 22nd, 1941.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that was the day that Germany invaded Russia in the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
And it was before we got into the war.
Yeah.
Do you want to know anything about my parents? They were,
Yeah.
my dad was a farm boy from Nebraska. Met my mother. He was in the First World War, so we're going back.
Yeah.
And she was Shakespearean actress, actually, in San Francisco on stage. She didn't go through traditional high school back then.
Yeah.
They didn't. So they were married in 1918, and so I had many older brothers and sisters. There were, well, Mom had 13 live births, and so two died quite young.
Mm-hmm.
And so we lived on 10 acres in Rio Linda. I basically grew up with the brother that was almost 3 years older than me, and the brother that was 4 years younger than me. And my older brothers and sisters were getting married by the time I became aware of anything.
Yeah.
I was just actually saying today that I remember the day that Roosevelt died. He got us through the Second World War, and I wasn't 4 yet. I think he died in April of whatever, 45 maybe, right before the, is that when he? Yeah. Okay, so the only thing I remember is everyone was really sad or something. It was a big thing. Roosevelt died.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I remember, sitting on the front steps. And actually I remember being, my earliest years being, Mom and Dad would talk at night, and I was kind of scared, and I've thought back on it and I realized that my oldest brother he was taken out of high school at 17, and he flew, I think, 39 bombing missions over Germany. Most of those boys didn't come back, so I can see why my parents were, why I was too young to understand why their talking upset me, but anyway, so Dad he always had a summer and winter garden, and we had a lot of fruit trees, and he had to feed a lot of people. And
so then did your dad and your parents kind of grow up during the Great Depression and all of that?
Well, actually, during the Great Depression, of course that was before I was born.
Right.
They lived they went back and forth between San Francisco and California.
Yeah.
And they were on a farm in West Point, Nebraska during the Great Depression. So they had enough to eat. Mom said they took food to town because there were a lot of hungry people in town,
Right.
And I think they were always well connected with the church, so I'm sure they probably took it to the Catholic Church, And of course my family was very Catholic. I was born on one Sunday and baptized the next Sunday, and we said the rosary every night. My dad would lead it, and let's see. went to public school in Rio Linda, and I think the 7th grade started going to Catholic school. Then in high school went to Loretta High. I was the first class that spent 4 years there. The class in front of me started as sophomores. And so let's see, where I keep thinking what's happened. I didn't really pay any attention to politically. I know we didn't have a TV till I was in high school. Of course, before a computer. That's my husband. I didn't introduce you, I guess. But anyway, it's long before computers and for entertainment we'd listen to radio some. They had some weird Inner Sanctum and The Shadow and I don't know. I don't remember what they were, but so I graduated in 1959 and I started, not everyone went to college those days, but I started at American River, was a new junior college. Then I went 1 year and then I dropped out and started working and
what kind of jobs did you have?
I worked for McClellan, which was
the Air Force base?
Just secretarial, you know. When I was 22, if you have any questions, I mean, I don't know if I'm touching.
No, this is good.
If I'm touching on historical things much, I moved down to the Bay Area, and I went to San Francisco State, and I finished up there, I think in '69, and I was 26 when I graduated with a degree in clinical, excuse me, not political, but clinical with a C, science. And I trained as a medical technologist and worked in the Bay Area for 10 years. Of course, my parents were up here. And I don't know if you want, I mean, I remember the different presidents and so forth, you know, that, I remember when Kennedy was shot.
Yeah, and what was it like when he was
he
shot? Was it
well, I
impactful?
was going to, I'd started taking some more classes at junior, that was at the junior college. That was 1963, something like that.
Because
Kennedy was shot.
No,
I just remember spending the whole weekend kind of, we'll see you, Rich.
Bye, nice meeting you.
Oh, this is Sarah, Rich.
Hi, you.
Good, no, thank you.
And, I mean, I liked him because he was kind of a bit of a folk hero or a hero to young people, you know, because he started the Peace Corps and, you know, he was youngish and charming and had a pretty wife and young kids and, you know, he was not, I mean, who do we have? Who was president, right? Was Eisenhower? Who was right before him? Anyway,
Eisenhower,
Eisenhower. So, I mean, we just, you know, always old presidents and so forth. So he was
a young guy.
Yeah. So it was, I guess there were people that didn't like Kennedy, you know, but my dad had always been Democratic and my mom was Republican. Of course, my dad always talked politics. My mom never said much.
Yeah,
you know,
so you were kind of more in tune with the Democratic.
I was, but I'm not anymore.
Yeah.
Not at all anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, the world has changed so much. The issues were so different then. I mean, my father had a heart for poor people and so forth. And of course, that's what the Democrats have always said. You know,
Right.
I don't know if they. Anyway,
Mm.
that's politics.
Yeah.
But so let's see.
Let's see. Was it different, do you think, then, like being a woman working when you were growing up? Was it-
Yeah. I. This is a silly instance. I don't know if you want to repeat it, but you know, my first job ever was picking up the eggs of the chickens. That I was pretty young, maybe 5 or something. But as time went on, I was pretty clever at getting out of work. And when I was about 12, there was couple of my sisters. It was kind of an ultimatum that I start working,
Yeah.
and helping around the house. And I said, well, I should be able to do what either the boys do or the girls do. And so I said, I want to do what the boys do. Well, my brother milked the cow.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go down there and sit on the fence and watch him milk the cow,
Yeah.
I don't know, that went on for a while. I helped out a lot. I had when I was maybe 12, I read the story of a soul, which is Saint Therese. I don't know if you're familiar with and I had a real conversion. And so needless to say, I started being as good as I could be. And so anyway, but when you worked, yeah, you didn't really expect to make the money that men did, and most women stayed at home.
Right.
I mean, I don't think. I mean, all the women that worked were either single or before their first baby, but in the 60s there were all big families.
Yeah.
And so all my brothers and sisters, I wasn't married. Rich and I were married when I was 35, and things had changed a lot, but my brothers and sisters were married, in their late 20s, in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And so, and they had, I had 50-some nieces and nephews,
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And they had, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids.
Yeah.
So, ask me something.
Okay. Let's see. What about black, segregation and all that, and what were the views and
Okay,
all that?
I lived in Rio Linda.
Yeah.
I never went to school with a black person. Del Paso Heights was close, but there was no. I mean, we didn't. Well, I think my dad had one black friend, but I didn't. I didn't have any exposure to any black people.
Yeah.
Although in Rio Linda there were a lot of poor people that had come out, I think, during the Depression, probably from, Oklahoma, call them Okies,
Yeah.
and so they were poor, and they were culturally not that sophisticated, I don't think, but I've actually never, when I worked as a medical technologist, there were a few black technologists, but I've never
Yeah. It was
had
kind
that
of-
much.
Yeah.
And you go to church, there are black people, but
Yeah.
but not not like now. I'm sure at St. Francis there.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What else could I ask? Do you remember like going like in our country, like going through the Cold War and like Kennedy or
Yeah, there
Cold
was.
War,
I remember. I don't remember things like having to, you know, get under desks
Yeah.
or things like that. I think some people, but yeah, I remember that constant fear was always, you know, like I was apolitical, you know,
Yeah.
not now. Now I follow things pretty close,
yeah.
but there was always the possibility that things would go awry, and some of it,
Yeah.
either us or the Russians would start raining down.
Yeah. So was there like a big fear of communism? I know we talked about that, and there was in history. At least.
Right. There was always, you didn't. Yes, there was a tremendous thing about communism. I mean, if you said you were even a socialist, that was really bad, and to be a communist was, you know, just not acceptable
Right.
anywhere to say that. I mean, kind of universal. There was not the diversity of opinions then, I think, as now, and we weren't at each other's throats either. You know, like now, I can't believe how up in arms some people are, like with the election.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that people are not accepting the results of the election, and they're still not, you know, they won't, it seems, accept, you know. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so communism was, and, you know, of course, the Holocaust, I don't know how much they talked about it, but, you know, we knew about it, and it was, you know, the most terrible thing that, you know, people could have imagined, you know. And so, yeah, those were our big kind of almost unifying things, you know, about America in, say, the 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, there were things like, this was not me, but my dad, we were German, you know, but his dad was from Germany, and I'm probably talking too much.
No, I just want to make sure it's still recording. It's okay.
And he and his brother and sister burned family pictures because they didn't want to be known as German.
Oh, wow.
You know, so even though he fought in World War I, and but there was people would break China, you know, to become American.
Separate themselves.
Yeah, to separate themselves.
Oh.
And so, yeah. So.
Oh. So, your brother fought in World War II, and then...
My dad in World War I, my oldest brother in World War II, my another brother in the Korean conflict.
Oh, yeah. And what was that like? Because that was a little later.
Yeah,
Kinda?
that was...
I think that was
in
1950s.
the 50s, yeah, I think. Maybe early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not, all I remember is something about the 38th parallel,
Yeah.
and I don't remember what exactly. Well, if you look at Korea now, we've got northern and southern Korea,
Right.
and maybe they're divided at the 38th parallel. I have no idea, but it must have been communism spread around the world,
Yeah.
different places, and so, yeah. So and then that was all. The my brother next door to me, and then he had a lazy eye, so he was 4F. And my younger brother went to to Canada during, so he wouldn't have to fight in the Vietnam War.
So he left the country?
He left, he came back.
Yeah.
He came back, he had to spend, I think, 6 months in jail and pay $3,000 fine, as I remember it.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, my family has seen a lot of. Well, my dad, World War One, he didn't see, I don't think, active conflict. Matter of fact, a lot of soldiers didn't, and he said most of the ones that died of diarrhea from
Really? Wow.
from that he knew of.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
yeah. So.
What about like in the 60s and the 70s, like the kind of
What the
social
world-
movements
well,
and
I
like the
was-
world was changing and
Well, I was down in the Bay Area where things were going crazy,
right.
and yeah, I had a roommate. I was there were about 5 of us in this house, and she was in the free speech movement at Berkeley, and she also, I remember, she went over to the city, San Francisco,
Mhm.
to ride the cable car, and so she got on the cable car and she was holding on, the outside,
Mhm.
and they said, well, you can't stand, you have to sit down. Women are not allowed to stand and hold on to the
Yeah.
cable car,
Yeah.
the poles, and she refused. They said, well, that's the law, and they started talking to her about, you're going to be a mother someday or something like that. And when they told her it was the law, she said, well, excuse my language, but it's a stupid asinine law. And so they took her to the courthouse, I guess. But after that, I guess they found out it wasn't the law. And after that, women started riding on the outside of cable cars. So,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what was the original question on that? What was happening
Yeah.
in the 60s. Well, people started smoking dope down there, and using harder drugs, and couples started living with each other, and the whole, all the, like if a girl got pregnant, like when I was in high school, that was like, I don't know if she could have finished high school, Catholic high school, I don't know. But things started changing, abortion came in, and the world culturally started changing a lot, I think, and probably the Bay Area was a hot spot, or maybe even the center of a lot of that change. And
Yeah.
so I know when I went down there, I went to church, and remember the priest, the different, they were kind of liberal, I think.
Yeah.
And so I got thinking, why do I need this? I don't want to scandalize you. I don't want your mom to be mad at me.
No.
But they were fairly liberal too. I remember.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah. So even in the church, it was kind
The church
everywhere.
has become, I mean, the battle is on in the church now, even to, I mean, they're those who, like, even the Holy Father has said something about people going to the Holy Communion who've been divorced and remarried. And I have a sister who lost her husband a long time ago. And
Yeah.
she was single for a while, and she belonged to this group of single people. And she said some of them were divorced and remarried, and they would go to communion and everything, and they do, I guess. So I guess this is going on now,
Yeah.
even though I'm sure if I've got my canon law book there, I could look it up,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it's not according to Hoyle, but yeah. So culture, I think, stayed pretty, I mean, the country has had its ups and downs and so forth, I'm sure,
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't young during the Roaring '20s, I wasn't even around, but
Yeah.
it was kind of a wild time too, and then Prohibition, but it was small pockets of people.
Yeah.
And now with social media, everyone has been affected by the liberal
Right.
ideas.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So.
So, you said a little story about your friend on the cable car.
oh
And
yeah.
so, were there any big protests at the time, or big movements? You remember? I can imagine in the Bay Area
Well,
there was a lot of.
Yeah, I just
now.
basically, the free speech movement was going on, and we shall overcome, that. And then I guess the bus trips to Selma and so forth, that happened. Do you know the year?
Mm-mm.
Was during the 60s, I believe. I know when I was going to San Francisco State, they had a food. But some of the students started throwing some of the silverware, and it was, I think Reagan was governor, and he wouldn't. I forget what his punishment was, but he didn't. He didn't turn a blind eye to it. They didn't turn a blind eye to things. I mean, I remember when there were some students were protesting in I forget where they were, Kent State. They were shot. I don't know.
The black.
I don't remember what it was about, but they were doing
know.
something, and they were ordered. I guess it was the National Guard ordered, or that shot some students, which was kind of a shocker because students, you just didn't shoot students.
Right.
You wouldn't do it now.
Yeah.
I think, So I don't remember the exactly when that happened. Must have been during the 60s, but anyway.
Yeah.
So
what kind of things did you fun and all that?
For
Just
fun?
growing up and being a teenager, college student, stuff
Um,
like that.
well, actually, I was kind of a nerd in high school. I had some, I don't know what it was. Um, I was on some sort of medication because of of just that was during my teenage years,
Yeah.
early, probably from 12 to 16 or something,
Mhm.
and going to, and I had terrible scruples, and it was, but then, and I went to no girls high school, so um, I really didn't have. I mean, what people do for fun? You went to movies. I guess I don't know. People at parties. Went dancing. It was safer. I mean, uh, one wouldn't go to dancing someplace with girlfriends and go, take a ride with a guy you'd meet there. But and bars and dancing places were not the place to meet, according to my
Yeah.
idea,
Right.
because um, and like I met my husband on a Sierra Club hike,
Yeah.
but that was in, I think we were married in 77, and so we knew each other a little over 2 years, so.
Oh.
So we must have met at the end of 74. And so, of course, then I spent a lot of my time, once we moved up here to Sacramento, I helped take care of my parents a lot and had our two boys,
Yeah.
and, just taking them to and from school. I didn't work, so I was pretty out of circulation. I didn't feel that like women now feel they have to work and raise their kids, and I thought that I had, I'd worked and I wasn't
Yeah.
missing out on anything by not working, and I liked raising my own children so I could see them say their first. I didn't trust anyone else to raise my kids, So,
Yeah.
so I never worked after. Well, I did. I cleaned my brother's shop for some money and so forth for many years actually, but I never held. I never went back to medical technology, and I didn't miss it really.
Yeah. You were
So
done with that. Yeah.
so
So you grew up with how many brothers and sisters? Did you say?
I had 5 brothers and 5 sisters.
Wow. But they were all kind of older, so you didn't.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
my mom
as
had
many?
her first, my oldest sister when she was 20, and my younger brother when she was 46. So
Mhm.
she had, yeah.
More
And
years.
so I was really closer to my 2 brothers, and
Yeah.
so
So do you think your parenting style was it all different, or you wanted things to be different than how you were raised, or anything like that?
well, I appreciate, and I really think my mother was, she always gave me unconditional love, which, is strengthened me, I think, through my life. My dad, I think my dad, he was 45 when I was born, and I think he got diabetes when he was older, and I think he maybe didn't start feeling so well when I was young,
Yeah.
and so he was probably a little less tolerant with us younger children than, I mean, with my older brothers and sisters, they used to have tomato fights and walnut fights, and
Yeah.
you know, he would get in and wrestle with my brothers and so forth, but it was, you know, so I think Dad not being, you know, feeling as well, I didn't realize that was, you know, but he was not, I mean, was there, and he was stricter, you know, he was, you know,
Yeah.
so, I don't know.
So what made you move down to the Bay Area, and then did you move back, or where
Well,
did
I
you go
moved back
after that?
because my parents needed, well, I moved away because I was young, and I had gone with this guy a little while and fell for him, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
And that was one of the incentives of moving. But you know, a lot of young people want to get away for a while.
Yeah.
My our two sons did that. So I think it's just part of becoming your own person, you know.
Yeah.
And then I moved back because, like I said, my parents were old and needed help. My dad had had a stroke, and my mom never drove, and they needed someone to take them to doctors and grocery stores and, you know, and out. And
Right.
so that was the incentive for moving back. And so I helped them. And then when Rich's mom had a stroke, she moved in with us, and she lived with us 5 years, and she passed away about 4 years ago. And so anyway, Rich was tired of taking, we had 2 acres in Rio, and he was tired of trying to keep it up.
Yeah.
And tired of, he's involved in music and a lot of other things, you know.
Yeah.
And so he just wanted to get rid of the house. So we moved here, and
Yeah.
it's a lot easier here. It's closer to restaurants and closer to the things he likes. Of course, it's always close to church because
Yeah.
I go to church every
Right.
day. So
Yeah.
yeah, so those were the reasons, that I moved down there and back, you know.
Mhm.
So
What else can I ask? Oh, do you remember like when you got a TV or your car, or did you have a car
I
until
had.
later, or?
Yeah, I had a car. I don't think I learned to drive till I got my license when I was 18, I think, you know, it's not like 16, you know.
Yeah.
And my dad bought a couple inexpensive cars when I was young, and one I remember calling it my Easter egg. It was pink and white.
Mhm.
Kind of ugly. Pink wasn't in, and I don't like pink that much anyway. And and then but I put myself through college, and I provided for my housing and my tuition, everything
Yeah. By yourself.
by myself, which was hard because I starved sometimes. I was really, you know,
Wow.
didn't have enough food.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, jars of peanut butter were great. You know,
Yeah.
but I was never, I, you know, I don't think that's good, but that's the way it was. And I never, you know, I never really told my parents, you know, because part of it is just you don't want to admit that you can't take care of yourself, you know. So tuition, I remember, per semester at San Francisco State was $46. So even
Yeah.
even given the difference in inflation, $46 is not a lot, you know. Of course, books are more expensive now, but they weren't cheap then.
Right.
And you know, apartments were, I mean, maybe 100 a month. You know, I mean, I didn't get expensive apartments. I was never homeless, you know.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
Yeah.
I couldn't have done that. But yeah, I remember when I quit the hospital I worked at in Oakland, Providence Hospital. I remember I was making $11.50 an hour, and that was really, really good back in 1977. You know,
Yeah.
now I think medical technologists, I don't know, maybe what they make, maybe
Yeah.
30, 35 an hour.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But
So what did you do to pay to get through college and all that, and what were you doing? And,
well, usually I did secretarial work, find what jobs I could. I know I worked at the college a while at San Francisco State, so close to Sac State.
Yeah.
Yeah, just secretarial work, the kind of work that makes you want to do anything
But that.
but that, yeah, get a degree and get, and I became a medical technologist because I thought I could make adequate money, but I thought it would be something that I could maybe help people some.
Yeah.
Now I have a different opinion of medicine. I think they give too many drugs and they don't try to. Anyway, that's another subject. Okay.
Okay, I don't really know anything about Nixon and all that. All I know is that people didn't like him. But do you remember, like, not liking him or liking him?
He was not a very likable person. He had a tendency, like, I remember my dad used to talk about Helen Gahagan and Douglas or something. Helen, there's something like that name. And he kind of destroyed, he was running against her and he kind of destroyed her. After he lost, which election, he said, "You're not going to have Nixon to kick around anymore." I mean, he was not a very charming person,
Yeah.
you know. Like I said, it was not, like now, I don't think Trump is that charming and attractive,
Right.
but I sure like his agenda a lot more than I like. I mean, Hillary would have been hell.
Yeah.
And so, but it was probably a lot more personalities in those days, and and there were economics that favored wealthier people with the Republican Party, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Nixon, that I can't really say. The Watergate thing, I mean, there was a lot of lying going on then. You know, it went all the way up to the president, you know, and it was a big thing, you know, but I mean, what all it was they infiltrated the Democratic headquarters and they broke in. And it doesn't seem like it's such a big deal in today, because there's so much worse. I mean, with leaks and
Right.
of course WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, and of course to me WikiLeaks. I mean, no one's denying the truth of the leaks. So they just don't like how they got the information. But I mean, I felt a lot of the information was very valuable, WikiLeaks. But anyway, yeah, it was a different day, a different time, and we were a lot more straight arrow or something back then. So, how old's your history teacher? I shouldn't ask.
I'm not sure actually.
Probably youngish.
No, she has grandkids.
Oh.
So.
I had a first cousin who was a Franciscan nun. She died last year, but so.
Yeah.
So.
Were there any, like, I don't know, big things that made your political views change from your dad's Democratic to now being
abortion.
Republican?
I've done some just praying on. I'm sure your mom has, probably you have too, praying on abortion. I know when I was young, I remember when it first, California voted before Roe v. Wade, but California voted that abortion was legal. I remember thinking, well, I would never have one, but I can't say what other people would do. But that was when I was young.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, there's such a mindset that is not, science says it's a baby. People, you can go to jail if you kill a pregnant woman, but the same woman can, this doesn't make any sense, but I'm just trying to get through life the best I can with what energy I have.
Yeah.
So, let me think if there were any other political figures that made an impression on me. You've lived through Clinton. He was, I mean, the things he did would have never flown 20 years before that, having, and Hillary, and anyway, So, can I offer you a water or a Diet Coke or something?
Okay, no, I'm good, thank you. I don't know if I have any more questions, unless you just have anything else you want to share about, I don't know, your life, but I don't know if I have anything else.
My life or the world? Well, I guess mine.
Either, but it's more about you,
Well, if it's a history class, she probably wants how the times affected my life.
Right.
And I mean, there are all sorts of, I mean, we had indoor plumbing when I was little, but, there's so many, I guess the big thing is the internet, and I mean, it's just, and it's left me behind because I go on the computer and I do, I read what I want to read things, and I have emails. My oldest son signed me up for Facebook years ago, but I don't do anything on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to see people's pictures, but I prefer to talk to people or talk to them on the phone rather than put things on Facebook. It's not so much a conversation when on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's more.
I agree. Yeah.
And so, the world it's gotten a lot faster. I mean, we even used to drive slower. Everything is really speeded up. Young people are in such a hurry. I don't think people sit around and talk with each other as much as they used to. And what really bothers me is young people being like in a circle, maybe they should be talking to each other, but they're texting each other. And they may be texting the person they're in a circle with. Maybe, I don't know, but it does blow my mind because, there's so much more. I mean, you can see a person's face, you can look them in the eye, you can't do those things on a text.
Yeah.
So,
Different. Yeah.
We didn't, these, I don't even understand all, I should look them up in the dictionary, they, sexism, okay, I understand that. Gender equality, now they got all these gender things, well, the number of people that are actually born who are who are both genders or something, it's so minuscule. You wouldn't, but of course what it is people changing their gender.
Yeah.
And
so I'd imagine growing up that was not really around.
No, and I'm of the opinion it's a demonic possession of something that as I feel homosexuality is too. But boy, I'd be strung up if I'm not fit to take out, give my opinions,
Yeah.
But I don't think homosexuals are that happy, and no one talks about what's the purpose of this life and why are we here. I mean, everyone's just going along, getting what they can and living fast and maybe dying young, I don't know, but there isn't, you can't even discuss ideas anymore with some people because of their opinions, you can't,
they're stubborn.
Can't vary from whatever their opinions are, you just can't be, so, yeah.
I don't know if I have anything else.
I hope I gave you enough
it was helpful. I think
to is it does it have to be a long paper or
it's like 3 pages.
Oh, you should have enough.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah. I think so.
I guess, what are you, maybe 16, 17? Are you 17?
I'll be 18 in a week and a half.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah.
So, what you've seen in the world. You know, when you're little, you don't even pay any attention. You probably
Right.
don't pay attention to politics yet.
No.
It seems kind of crazy, you know.
Yeah.
My niece, when I told her I listened to Fox News, she just almost got up and you know.
Yeah.
And my husband, when Trump is on, he walks out of the room. So anyway, but yeah, you haven't seen as much change as,
Yeah.
and hopefully things might change back. Well, I don't know if we want to go backward, but I think there were things. I mean, we were kind of a little more, not so angry, not so, you know, just
Yeah.
people you disagreed with, you disagreed with them or sometimes. But, you know, anyway, I think this society is sometimes spinning out of control or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it seems that way to you, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure because.
Well,
Yeah, I
I
guess
think
this
the
is-
election is really, I mean, it was crazy, the election. And now the women's movement, which is a pro-choice movement, I think is all it is. And the refusal to just even give Trump a chance is not
Yeah.
that I've never seen that before. I mean, you know, I wasn't crazy about Obama, but you know, he was elected.
Yeah. And you have to respect it's the
Yeah.
president, so
The office, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
whether you like it or not, that's what it is now. So the people who
But-
don't
but-
like Trump, you know.
but I've heard there were 100 people or some wealthy people got together trying to figure out ways to undermine Trump's, you know,
Yeah.
his presidency,
Mm.
and even thinking of ways to impeach him. You know, and that's, I mean, like this ban on immigrants. I mean, those 7 countries were voted by Congress to be the most dangerous, you know, and he has every right as president. I mean, it's written into the law that he has the right to protect the country by closing immigration from areas that he deems dangerous to the country. I mean, Europe is becoming like they could have Sharia law. I mean, they've opened their borders so much
Mhm.
too, and you know, say what they say. Say what they want. I think Islam is demonic also. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Because even the Bible says, if an angel should come and give you another doctrine, you know, other than this, it's not,
It's not. Yeah.
it's not. And of course, anyway. So, but they're making life hard for of course Trump makes life hard for himself sometimes, but he gets a lot of negative press. But I like a lot of the things he wants to do, so, you know, and I think a wall is fine. I mean, what if you had a house with no walls? You know, you wouldn't, you know,
That's true.
wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to, so,
Yeah. Was immigration even like as much of a thing back then as it is now?
we
we
I
have so
think
much.
we
but-
expected people, the new groups always had a hard time, like the Italians, when they came in waves, they had a hard time on the Irish
Mhm.
after the Irish famine. They had a hard time. So every group has had a harder time being integrated into the melting pot.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, I take pause too, because there are Christians who are being beheaded in many,
Mhm.
and
Yeah. Sure.
in all these, the things that have happened in all the Western countries, that are by jihadists, I mean, it's dumb to ignore it, I think, and I think it's right to get a handle on it. And so I just think people want to object to anything that the conservatives want,
Mhm.
and that's Trump, I guess. Although
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
not. Anyway.
Mm.
So.
Well, I don't think I have anything else to ask.
Oh.
I think I have enough. I think
Okay, well, good.
feel good.
I hope I'm glad. I
Yeah.
did.